Like a Dragon Yakuza is a show that was always going to be disliked by a group of people. That's just something that'll happen when you make an adaptation of something that people find beloved. That's not to say that all adaptations are stupid or that everyone dislikes the show. I'm just saying that there are people that will be inevitably disappointed with an adaptation of something that they love. But what does this specific adaptation do that makes a lot of people so mad about it? It's not trying to be what people love, and it never intended to be. Sorry, I'm a little sick in this video, but it's gonna have to do. Early after the show was announced, it was made very clear that the show was never going to be just Yakuza 1 copy and pasted. Actors were told not to play the games, the trailers looked really serious, and Yokoyama is even saying that it's gonna be its own thing. On one hand, this is scary. You don't want another Dragon Ball Evolution, but on the other hand, if handled correctly, you'll get a different story with similar themes to the source material, like Spider-Man 2 for example. But the show feels like a mixture of both, with more elements from the former, being more like Dragon Ball Evolution. You get some similar themes, but the show takes a much more complicated route to get to them for some reason. And then you get characters completely mischaracterized and even outright disrespected, like Saejima showing up for 3 seconds and then getting killed. People can like this for being its own thing, but people who are mad at this treatment of the game characters and the inaccuracy and whatnot is also understandable. All the criticism doesn't go away just because it's its own thing. It can still be its own thing and still have shit writing and still be ass. Plus, there's a difference between being your own thing and then disregarding everything that the source material has. These things aren't mutually exclusive, and Dragon Ball Evolution is an example of that. And this TV show. Hey, wait a minute. Anyway, the inaccuracy is important to consider because I feel like the marketing of the show is really pushing it as something like a dragon and Yakuza. You know what I mean? It's the same reason why Majima Gaiden has Yakuza thrown back into the title. They want people in the West to see it as like a dragon and Yakuza, even though that's really complicated, and I thought they moved past that, but whatever. The point is, the show has the name of the series twice in the West. It's not crazy to think that people would be mad at the inaccuracy of the story because they are told twice in the title that it's going to be the story of something else. It'd be like getting an adaptation of the Joker, who's only the Joker in name and has nothing to do with Batman. Or an adaptation of Spider-Man villains that have nothing to do with Spider-Man. Hey, wait a minute, I really wish there was a way to tell me that the show goes beyond the game and won't necessarily adapt it. Too bad they would never name it anything like that. Hey, wait a minute, but I'm not here to just bash the show for an entire video. I'm here to actually review it and kinda talk about it. And there are some things I like. Like, the acting is pretty good. Yeah, I don't think there was a single outright bad actor that I can recall, and overall it's pretty solid and consistent. 05 Nishiki and 95 Nishiki are really different, and the acting just really sells it, like he went off the deep end and went really violent. Kazuma is good in the show because he's actually a father instead of a manipulative guy. He kinda reminds me of Yakuza 3 Kiryu, where he just left behind everything and ran an orphanage. I actually like that he's turned into an actual father because Kiryu glazes him so much in the games, but he's a piece of garbage. Miho actually has screen time instead of being a character that's just said and then dies. You actually get to see her develop and her relationship with everyone. Nishiki's downfall is very good because of this. Instead of being something that happens because he needs to protect Yumi, he kills Dojima because it's a buildup of all his emotion and just suffering. Miho dying is the straw that breaks the camel's back, and because she's an actual character, you actually get to care more about Nishiki's downfall. Yumi is also an actual character, instead of just being someone who shows up at the end of the game and at the beginning of the game. Like Miho, we get to actually see her relationship with everyone, and you get to actually see why Kiryu would be in love with her, instead of just being told, hey, Kiryu loves her. Get it? Kiryu loves her. Isn't she awesome, guys? 05 Kiryu is good, for the most part. The cinematography is nice. The 1995 sections of both episode 4 and 5 are very solid overall. It's really these first 3 episodes that are weak because you're trying to follow all of these characters and there's so much going on. And that's something I don't like, which leads into characters appear at random because there are just way too many of them. Date shows up, and then when you forget that Date's in the show at all, he shows up again. It's like, oh yeah, Date's in this show, what the hell? The fight scenes suck. There's way too much cutting, and it feels like the OG games where after a heat action you would teleport, and the punches have no impact. I don't like that Saejima died. I don't like that Majima is there only for fan service, even though they really marketed him like, hey, come watch this show. Majima's in it. I really don't like that Saejima died. A lot of the plot changes suck, like Haruka has nothing to do with anything. She's just there to get kidnapped. The florist works for the Yakuza. Alright man, whatever. Aiko has no redeeming qualities. She's just in the show to give Yumi something to do. And it's really boring. It just sucks. I hate her. Her kid is also Haruka, and it sucks. Haruka does nothing. She's nothing like how she is in the game. She's spoiled, and she has fetal alcohol syndrome. I don't like that Saejima. The 10 billion yen plot sucks. I don't understand why they didn't just make it so Nishiki stole it, since it would make a lot more sense on why they want to kick him out of the Tojo clan. And instead, it's just given to Aiko so that Yumi has something to do, but then this inflates the plot and just there's so much going on. And also, it really feels like Yakuza 4-5 and the climax of Infinite Wealth, where convenient stuff happens just so that the story can move along, because Aiko just alright, Aiko, wow, she just finds the 10 billion yen on accident, and then the Omi Alliance trusted 3 fucking guys to take care of their 10 billion yen. And they don't even... Oh my god, they're so stupid. I really don't like that none of the characters look like themselves except Kiryu and the florist. Was it really that hard to make Nishiki wear a black shirt? Come on, bruh. I really don't like how there's no stakes at all. Like, none of the main characters died except Saejima and Dojima. Kiryu not being Kiryu in 1995 sucks. His motivation to join the Yakuza also sucks. In the game, he wanted to join the Yakuza for a selfish reason too. He wanted to be like Kazuma, who was like respected and had all this stuff. But in the show, it's not like this. He doesn't want to be respected and have all this stuff. He wants to be a legend. These are two different things, and they're not mutually exclusive, but they are different. Game Kiryu wanted to be like his daddy. Show Kiryu wants to be on his own, which is why Kazuma being disrespected sucks. Kiryu is constantly glazing him in the game, and they love glazing him. But in the show, they don't do that at all. It just feels like a really weird part to leave out of Kiryu's character when it's a huge part of him too. They just push Kazuma to the side and make no one care about him and make people defy him so that the plot twist at the end of the series can be like, what? The guy that Kiryu didn't like was the guy he was looking up to the whole time? No way! It doesn't invoke any emotion for me because Kiryu doesn't even give a fuck about Kazuma. We aren't even shown how disciplinary he is. So like, who cares? It's just a dramatic plot twist to set up another dramatic plot twist. Kind of like 4-5 in Infinite Wealth. I really don't like how they want Kiryu to really want to be a legend, to drive home the theme of like, oh, he wanted all this and his life went to shit because of it. They want him to become a dragon so that he can regret it later and it'll be all tragic, but it is executed in such a shit way. At first, Kiryu wants to be a dragon because he thinks it's cool and he wants to be a legend. But then, what really sets him off to really want to become a dragon is that Miho is dying and needs treatment. His motivation changes because now he wants to be a dragon to save his sister's life, and it's very emotional and it's gripping and it's like, damn. But then the show still tries to pin it as a way of saying that him becoming a dragon was a mistake and that you shouldn't try to be like a dragon. Yeah, Kiryu wanted to become a dragon to save Miho's life, but it was his fault she was dying anyway. Yeah, you shouldn't want to be like a dragon. It's named Like a Dragon because Kiryu is like a dragon. The whole story of Yakuza 1 is about the strength of Kiryu and how Nishiki wants to be like a dragon. The tattoos are directly playing into this, as Kiryu is a dragon and Nishiki is a koi who has to swim up the river to become one. Nishiki wants to be like a dragon, and the entire events of Yakuza 1 swap Nishiki and Kiryu's positions in the underworld to show how Nishiki wants to be like a dragon. In the end, Kiryu still wins because he's a true dragon, and the first 3 games are really about challenging the dragon. There's a koi who wants to be a dragon, but fails. Another dragon who wants to be an equal, but fails. And a Kirin who wants to kill the dragon, but fails. It's about the series being like a dragon, and about you too being like a dragon, where only the purest dragon comes out on top. Ichiban having a dragonfish tattoo is also representative of this. He wants to be like a dragon. The show says, fuck all that, and they throw all that out, and they don't give Nishiki a tattoo, and they don't even bother trying to tell this kind of symbolism. They really do throw everything out of the window. The dragon and the koi, the battle to be equals, the battle to be like a dragon, fuck that. Kuroiwa, epic cool kills and moments. It's just all of these defining stuff from the games that are left out so it can be another crime drama, or be its own thing. Nothing goofy because everything is left out. The theme of Kiryu finding a reason to live on through Haruka? Nah, bruh, there's a plot twist instead. The pacing is also absolute ass. There are too many characters, there are 2 different time periods, and it feels like nothing happens between 95 and 05. The show is trying to tell the story of all of these characters, the antagonists, the side characters, across 2 different time periods in 6 episodes. After I watched the first 3 episodes, I recorded a video where I said this.
This TV show is like if you were playing through Yakuza 0 and you also had Yakuza Kiwami open and you were alt-tabbing in between them every 30 minutes. And you're also watching Kuroiwa epic moments and cool kills on YouTube.
And I was right. The story is like an amalgamation of 0, 1, Judge Eyes, and it even has plot elements of Yakuza 2 in there. And it just complicates everything. The show has to tell the origin stories of these characters, show them in present day, then show the antagonist, and explain all of these different things. Even the games that are bloated and have an overcrowded cast like 4, 5, and Infinite Wealth had a lot of time to set up the characters and show them off. Shinada, for example, the GOAT. Even though everything comes crashing together at the end of the game, the characters are still properly built up. The show only has 6 episodes, and most of them aren't even 50 minutes long, so it doesn't have the luxury of time to be doing all that like the games can. I don't even think Nishiki's motivation was made clear until the very last episode of the show. And this happens because the show is trying to be his origin, his breakdown, his rise, and his final battle all at the same time, and it's just, there's so much stuff going on! Also, the mole Nishiki sucks! Instead of being a rival, he's just a generic, I want to tear everything down. He thinks he's Ebina! Oh, a family member died so that he wants to enact justice against the Yakuza by climbing through their ranks. Ebina, you're not the mole at all! He's not Nishiki. He's the demon of Shinjuku. Oh my god! Who is this show even for? Seriously. I know people say that a lot when they don't like something, or it's like different, but I'm saying this as someone who does like parts of the show. Who is this even for? It tries to play into things that people who play the games would notice and understand. For example, Saejima, who shows up for 3 seconds, characters saying Kiryu hasn't changed, Reina, this official karaoke video, and even the pushing of Majima in the marketing. These examples feel like the writers of the show trying to make a nod to people who play the games, like, wow, there it is, yup, I understood that reference, ha 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 ha. The karaoke video and pushing of Majima especially feels like it's an attempt to urge people who have not watched the show to watch it. It's like, look, the show does have stuff from the games that you like, so come watch it. Then when you watch the show, these things that are trying to cater to people who like the games are just not there. There's no karaoke or goofy stuff. Saejima dies. Reina is relegated to a side character who disappears. and Majima gets no screen time either. And you just feel completely alienated by the show. I feel like that's why so many people are overreacting and saying this is the worst show of all time. It has the name of something they love. It tries to lure them in with things that they love, and it's not what they love. Not even in the slightest. Not even with bare minimum themes. Not even in the clothing choices. So it's not exactly a show for people who are familiar with the games. Is it a show for people who want to get into the games? Not really. It's kind of like the reverse effect. Let's say your favorite character in the show is Yumi, and you never touched a Yakuza game before. You watch the show, get interested in the games, and then you buy the newly released Yakuza Kiwami for the Nintendo Switch. Then you see that your favorite character from the show is nothing like her counterpart in the game, and she only appears at the very beginning of the game and at the end. You'll feel alienated in the same way that people who play the games feel about the show. That's not to say that there are only two ways to feel about both of them, or that someone is going to feel this exact way. There's a beautiful thing called nuance. I'm just here to try and figure out who the show is made for, and these are the most broad opinions. And I know who this show is made for. It's way too separate from the games to really be like a dragon, and it doesn't embrace many of the aspects from those games unless you want to count having a bloated cast. At the same time, it embraces many aspects from traditional crime and mob dramas that you'll see in, well, typical crime and mob dramas. That's who this show is made for. People who like crime shows, not people who like a Dragon, or people who want to get into it. If you remove the Yakuza naming from everything, the show just becomes another crime drama. The only recognizable things you'd have are the 10 billion, the red and gray suit, the mole, Majima, Saejima, the florist, and some parts of Nishiki's downfall. The show isn't very recognizable in being Yakuza outside of these few things, and even the things I like about the show aren't very Yakuza. Like Yumi, I like her because she's Yumi, but not because she's Yumi. But I guess I do like 05 Kiryu for being like 05 Kiryu, for the most part. Also, isn't it kind of funny how in this promotional poster, Kiryu and Majima look like NPCs that are just like randomly selected from the game? That should tell you everything you need to know about the show. Does being inaccurate and not really adapting the games make the show a bad thing though? If you're looking at it from the perspective of being an adaptation, yes. Like I said at the beginning of the video, it's called Like a Dragon Yakuza in the West. It really couldn't hurt to have more connections to the games. But outside of looking at it as an adaptation, is it fine as its own thing? I guess. Some stuff is kind of shit and some stuff is good. Overall, it's an okay show and okay crime drama. It's like a 5 out of 10. They'd really be better off if they just called this thing Dragon's Wrath or something, because every time you remember it's like a dragon, you get a sour taste in your mouth. It's trying to be its own thing, it's trying to tell its own story, but it uses the branding of the games, and it uses the character from the games randomly, so you can't ever escape the feeling that this is like a dragon. This is why I make such a big deal about Saejima being killed off. I feel like an adaptation should be respectful of the source material it's adapting, but then the show does stuff like kill off Saejima, mess up Kiryu's characterization, and Nishiki's characterization as well. The connections to the game feel surface level aside from a few things, and it just feels like the branding was used because the series is popular. Like damn, outselling Persona? That is fucking crazy. If they just called it Yakuza, Dragon's Wrath, or Ultimate Like a Dragon or something, I feel like less people would be mad. But because they adapted Yakuza 1 and named it Like a Dragon Beyond the Game or Like a Dragon Yakuza, it's always going to be in the shadow of the actual Yakuza 1. Adaptations like Fallout or even Edge Runners, they live separate from the original stuff because they're not adapting the games directly. Fallout has its own original story and characters. Edge Runners has its own original story and characters, but Like a Dragon Yakuza still has Kiryu, Nishiki, Majima, and everything else. I really think that's why all of these news articles and shit comparing these adaptations to Like a Dragon Yakuza isn't really fair, because the characters are completely different. That's a whole other video though, and overall this show is just fine. That's it. I wouldn't really recommend watching it if you have like no time on your hands. I guess if you're at the dentist and they put the TV screen in front of you, you could watch it. And overall, as an adaptation a success. Is it the worst show of all time? Arguably. Could it have been better? Yeah. Anyway, that's all I got. Bye.
His name is Kazuma, the dragon of Dojima. He was feared and respected until the day he took a fall for family and broke the blood oath of Yakuza.